The space monitoring station hung silently among the stars, its smooth curves and glowing blue lights marking it as a Miran construction. Inside, the command center buzzed with the quiet efficiency of a crew that had seen little excitement in their years of border patrol. "Sir, we're picking up something unusual at the edge of Sector 7, said Officer Han, her four-fingered hands moving quickly across the translucent control panel. "It's moving fast, very fast." Commander Tejo looked up from his reports, his ridged forehead wrinkling further with concern. As a veteran of the Outer Rim conflicts, he had learned to trust his instincts, and something about this detection felt wrong. "Show me," he ordered, rising from his command chair. The main view screen shifted to display a star field with a single point of light moving steadily through the darkness. What at first appeared unremarkable soon became concerning, as data streams began flowing alongside the image. "That can't be right," muttered Officer Ju, the sensor specialist. "The system must be malfunctioning." "Run a diagnostic," Tejo ordered, leaning forward. "Already did, sir. 3 times. Ju swallowed hard. "The readings are accurate. The vessel is using a propulsion system unlike anything in our database, and its size—" His voice trailed off. The command center fell silent as the computer rendered a proper scale comparison. The unknown ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of their largest battle cruiser. "Where did it come from?" Tejo asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Trajectory analysis indicates—" Officer Han paused, checking her readings again. "Earth, sir. It came from the human system." A ripple of disbelief spread through the command center. Everyone knew about Earth, a backwater planet in an unremarkable system. The Miran Scientific Council had been monitoring it for centuries, watching as the primitive species slowly developed rudimentary technologies. "That's impossible," said Security Chief Jin, stepping closer to the display. The last observation report from 60 years ago showed they had just reached their moon, using chemical rockets. They were burning fossil fuels and fighting over resources. They shouldn't have even achieved unified planetary government yet, let alone— He gestured at the ship on the screen. Tejo accessed the historical database, quickly reviewing the information. The humans had indeed been classified as a low-priority observation species, interesting enough to study, but not advanced enough to warrant regular contact. The Miran Collective, with its 7 member species spread across 17 star systems, had more pressing concerns than a single planet species still struggling with basic space travel. "Something doesn't add up," Tejo said. "Either we severely misjudged their development potential or someone else has helped them." Jin finished the thought, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. The tension in the command center ratcheted higher as the ship continued its approach, now clearly on a direct course for their station. "Sir, it's slowing," Han reported. "It will reach our outer defensive perimeter in 12 minutes at current speed." Tejo made his decision. "Initiate standard greeting protocols. Broadcast on all frequencies in the Common Language database. Add Earth's primary languages as well." "Raising. Shields would be prudent, Commander," Jin suggested quietly. "No," Tejo replied firmly. "That could be interpreted as hostile intent. We follow first contact procedures until given reason to do otherwise." As the crew scrambled to prepare the greeting message, Tejo studied the approaching vessel more carefully. Its design was unlike anything in Miran records, sleek yet angular, with what appeared to be heavily armored sections and unmistakable weapon emplacements. It wasn't just a ship, it was a warship. "Message prepared, sir. Communications." Officer Yu announced. "Send it," Tejo ordered, straightening his uniform. The crew waited in tense silence as the signal traveled across the void. Seconds stretched into minutes with no response. "Sir," Han said suddenly, her voice tight, "the ship has changed course. It's circling our position, and I'm detecting energy buildups consistent with active scanning technology." On the screen, the massive human vessel began a careful orbit around the station, maintaining perfect distance. "They're studying us," Tejo realized, "just as we've studied them." A soft alert sounded from the communications console. "Commander, we're receiving a response," Yu reported, surprise evident in her voice. "Audio and visual, they're speaking perfect High Miran." The initial meeting between Commander Tae-ho and Captain Soo-jin started well enough. They sat across from each other in the station's diplomatic chamber, a neutral space designed for first contacts. The human captain seemed reasonable, her posture relaxed but alert. "We appreciate your welcome, Commander," Soo-jin said, accepting. The offered drink, a blue liquid that was the Miran equivalent of tea. "The Thunderchild is on a routine patrol mission. We didn't expect to encounter your station." Tae-ho nodded politely. "Your ship is impressive. We had no idea Earth had developed such technology." A slight smile crossed Soo-jin's face. "We've come a long way since our first moon landing. Necessity drives innovation." "Necessity?" Tae-ho asked. Before she could answer, Officer Jin entered the room and whispered urgently in Tae-ho's ear. The commander's expression darkened. "Captain, I've just been informed that your vessel is currently positioned within what we call the Silvered Path, a protected travel corridor for our civilian transports. Our laws prohibit military vessels in these zones." Soo-jin frowned. "We weren't aware. Our scans showed no active transit lanes. The markers are coded into subspace. Your sensors might not be calibrated to detect them," Tae-ho explained. "I must formally request that you move your ship to these coordinates instead." He passed her a data tablet showing a position nearly half a light year away. The human captain's demeanor changed instantly. She set down her drink and stood. "That would place us at a significant tactical disadvantage, Commander. I'm afraid I can't agree to that." "It's not a request open to negotiation," Officer Jin interjected. "The Collective Council has strict protocols." "So does the United Nations Space Command," Soo-jin interrupted, her voice now cold. "Especially after what happened at New Harmony." Tae-ho looked confused. New Harmony? A human colony. Attacked 3 months ago, after being asked to reposition their defense fleet. Her eyes narrowed. "We lost 12,000 civilians." The tension in the room thickened. Tae-ho tried to salvage the situation. "Captain, I assure you, we have no hostile intent. The Miran Collective has never encountered human colonies." "Then, who did you send to our outer systems?" she demanded. "The ships with cloaking technology similar to yours?" Jin stepped forward. "We possess no such technology. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." "I think we understand perfectly," Soo-jin said, tapping her wrist communicator. "Thunderchild Initiate Defensive Pattern Delta. Authorization Soo-jin Alpha 7. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Officer Han's voice came through the comm system. "Commander, the human ship has deployed multiple smaller craft. They're taking up positions around our station and Sir, our long-range communications are being jammed." Tae-ho stared at Soo-jin in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "Protecting my ship and crew," she replied calmly. "Something you would understand if you'd fought the wars we have." The station shuddered as a series of precise energy pulses hit key external systems. Not weapons fire, but targeted electromagnetic bursts that bypassed their shields entirely. "Sir!" Han's panicked voice returned. "They've somehow accessed our computer network. Systems are shutting down across all sectors." Jin drew his sidearm, pointing it at Soo-jin. "Order your ships to stand down immediately." The human captain didn't even flinch. "Your weapon won't fire, Chief Jin. The power cells were neutralized when you entered this room." Jin pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. A new voice spoke through Soo-jin's communicator. "Captain, we've secured their primary systems. Minor resistance in engineering section. No casualties." "Keep it that way, Lieutenant Park," she ordered. "I want a clean operation." Tae-ho couldn't believe what was happening. The humans had effectively taken control of their station in minutes, with precision that spoke of extensive combat experience. "Who are you people?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Soo-jin's expression softened slightly. "We're survivors. Commander, while your collective was watching us take our first steps into space, we were fighting for our existence against threats you know nothing about. The Krell incursion, the Proxima War, the silent enemy." "Impossible," Jin said. "Our monitoring would have detected—" "Your monitoring missed quite a lot," Soo-jin cut him off. "Including the fact that we've been traveling between stars for over a century." Another violent shudder ran through the station. emergency lights flickered on as the main power failed. "Commander!" Han's voice was frantic now. "Life support is failing on levels 3 through 7, and our engines are... They're powering up without authorization. We're being moved." Tae-ho looked at Soo-jin, realization dawning. "You're repositioning our entire station," she nodded. "Away from what's coming." "Sir," Jin urged, "we need to activate the emergency protocols. The defensive fleet would be destroyed just as easily as we were disabled," Tae-ho interrupted, seeing the situation clearly now. The humans hadn't even used their main weapons. This was a demonstration, not an attack. He made his decision. "Officer Han, initiate emergency evacuation procedures. All non-essential personnel to escape pods immediately." "A wise choice," Soo-jin said. "You have 20 minutes before your reactor goes into shutdown mode." As the evacuation orders spread throughout the station, Tae-ho watched his crew scramble to escape. Decades of Miran technological superiority had been shattered in minutes by humans, a species they had classified as barely worth monitoring. "Captain Soo-jin," he said quietly, "I believe we've made a terrible miscalculation about humanity." "Yes," she replied, looking at a data feed from her ship, "but not nearly as terrible as the one we all face if we don't work together." She showed him her screen displaying a massive energy signature approaching from deep space. "That," she said grimly, "is why we're really here." The evacuation of the Miran station proceeded in controlled chaos. Commander Tae-ho stood on the bridge alongside Captain Soo-jin, watching as his crew rushed to escape pods. The station's systems continued to fail one by one, lights flickering as emergency power struggled to maintain basic functions. "Your people move efficiently," Soo-jin observed. "That's good." Tae-ho turned to her, anger finally breaking through his diplomatic restraint. "Was this necessary? You could have explained your concerns without disabling our station." Soo-jin's expression remained calm, but her eyes showed a hint of regret. "Time is something we don't have, Commander, and trust is a luxury we couldn't afford given our recent experiences." Before Tae-ho could respond, Lieutenant Park entered the bridge, carrying a small device that pulsed with soft blue light. "Captain, we found this buried in their communications array," Park said, handing the device to Soo-jin. "It's definitely not Miran technology." Soo-jin examined it carefully, then held it up for Tae-ho to see. "Do you recognize this?" The commander stared at the strange object. Its surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, despite being solid to the touch. "No, that's not ours. What is it?" "A quantum resonance beacon," Soo-jin explained. "It's been transmitting a distress signal. For months, a very specific kind of distress signal designed to attract a very specific kind of attention." Officer Jin stepped forward, his face pale. "That's impossible. Our systems would have detected any unauthorized transmissions." "Not this kind," Soo-jin said. "It operates on frequencies your people apparently never thought to monitor." She turned to Park. "Contain it and get it back to the ship for full analysis." As Park left with the device, Tae-ho felt a chill run down his spine. "What exactly is coming, Captain?" Soo-jin's face grew grim. She pulled up a holographic display showing a star chart of the surrounding sector. A massive energy signature, represented by a red cloud, was moving steadily toward their position. "We call them the Koros, a machine race of unknown origin. They travel in hive fleets, consuming everything in their path: resources, technology, even organic matter to build more of themselves." Jin laughed nervously. "The mechanical plague, that's just an old myth told to scare children. Stories from the early days of space exploration." "Not a myth," Soo-jin said firmly. "Humanity encountered a scout fleet of them 7 years ago at Wolf 359. We lost 3 colony ships and 2 military vessels before we managed to destroy them." The display zoomed in, showing detailed scans of massive, insect-like ships composed of metallic segments that seemed to constantly reconfigure themselves. "This isn't a scout fleet," she continued. "This is a full harvester armada. We detected their approach 3 months ago and have been tracking them since. That's when we also picked up the distress signal coming from your station." Tae-ho shook his head in disbelief. If what you're saying is true, why haven't we detected them? The Miran Collective has some of the most advanced sensor technology in known space. Because you've been looking in the wrong places, Sujin replied. The Koros operate primarily in subspace, only emerging fully into normal space when they attack. Your sensors aren't calibrated to detect their unique signature. She gestured to the beacon Park had taken away. That device was planted here specifically to draw them to your station, and through it, to the heart of Miran space. Someone wanted to make your people their first target. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Tae-ho felt the weight of this revelation pressing down on him. If the human captain was telling the truth, his entire civilization was in imminent danger from an enemy they weren't prepared to face. The Thunder Child wasn't here to attack you, Sujin said, her voice softer now. We came to intercept the Koros before they reached your core systems. We tried to reposition your station to move it out of their direct path. Officer Han's voice came over the comm system. Commander, evacuation is at 70%. Estimate complete in 7 minutes. Understood, Tae-ho responded. He turned back to Sujin. Why would humans risk their lives to save a species that's been watching yours without making contact? We've done nothing to earn such protection. Sujin walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. After our first encounter with the Koros, we found records in their database, fragments of information about other civilizations they had destroyed. One of them was called the Ardani. The images we recovered showed beings very similar to your people. The Ardani were our evolutionary cousins, Jin whispered. They vanished from our shared homeworld over 1,000 years ago. We always assumed they died in the Great Plague. They made it to the stars, Sujin said, and then they met the Koros. She turned back to face the Miran officers. Humanity has learned something important in our short time among the stars, Commander. The galaxy is far more dangerous than anyone realized. Those who can stand together must. The station shuddered again as another system failed. Emergency klaxons wailed in distant corridors. We have a plan to stop them, Sujin continued, but we need your help. Your people have knowledge of this sector that we lack. Tae-ho studied the human captain's face, searching for deception, but finding only determination and something he hadn't expected. Hope. If what you say is true, the collective isn't prepared for this threat, he admitted. Few are, Sujin replied. But humanity has been preparing for years. The Thunderchild isn't just a warship, it's a vanguard. There are more ships coming. Tae-ho made his decision. What do you need from us? First, Sujin said, calling up a new display showing the Miran defense grid. I need you to convince your fleet not to fire on the human ships that are about to arrive. And then, I need you to help me convince your leaders that the nightmare they dismissed as myth is very real, and it's coming for us all. The emergency council chamber of the Miran Collective buzzed with nervous energy. 7 high councillors sat behind a curved table of polished blue stone, their expressions ranging from skepticism to outright hostility. Commander Tae-ho stood before them, uncomfortably aware of the human captain standing beside him. This is unprecedented, declared Head Councillor Jun, his aged face creased with disapproval. Bringing an armed human into our secure facilities after they disabled one of our stations? With respect, Councillor, Tae-ho replied, if Captain Sojin had wanted to cause harm, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The Thunderchild could have destroyed our station rather than simply disabling it. The statement hung in the air, uncomfortable but undeniable. The journey from the disabled station to the Miran homeworld had been tense. Tae-ho had spent hours convincing the defense fleet not to fire on the human vessel, and even longer, persuading the council to grant them an emergency hearing. We have reviewed your report, Commander, said Councillor Yoon, the youngest member. These claims about the Koros, was it? They seem fantastical. Our deep space monitoring network has detected nothing unusual. Captain Sujin stepped forward. Your network isn't designed to detect them, Councillor. The Koros use a form of quantum shifting that allows them to exist partially outside normal space until they choose to fully materialize. Convenient, scoffed Councillor Jun. An enemy only humans can detect. Sujin remained calm. I've transferred our detection algorithms to Commander Tae-ho. Your scientists can verify and implement them within hours. and we're simply to trust. These algorithms? Asked another counselor. You don't have time not to, Sujin replied. Based on their current trajectory, the Koros vanguard will reach your outer colonies within 2 days. The chamber erupted in angry muttering. Teho raised his voice. Counselors, I've seen the evidence. I've witnessed human technology firsthand. They have no reason to deceive us. The debate continued for nearly an hour, with the council demanding more proof and Sujin patiently answering their increasingly hostile questions. Finally, she seemed to reach a decision. Enough, she said firmly. Thunderchild, this is the captain. Initiate Protocol Sunshine. The council chamber's lights flickered briefly. The large display screen at the front of the room activated on its own, showing the bridge of the human vessel. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Councillor June, rising from his seat. How are you accessing our systems? I'm not, Sujin replied. My ship is, and that's the point. If we can bypass your security this easily, imagine what the Koros will do. The display split into multiple feeds, showing various sections of the human warship. Teho watched with the councillors as human crew members worked efficiently at stations far more advanced than anything the Mirans possessed. Lieutenant Park, give them a demonstration of our defensive capabilities, Sujin ordered. The view shifted to space outside the ship. A small drone deployed from the Thunderchild, then flew several kilometers away. Suddenly it fired a powerful energy beam directly at the warship. Instead of impacting the hull, the beam was absorbed by a shimmering field that seemed to adapt its frequency in real time. Adaptive quantum shielding, Sujin explained. It analyzes incoming energy signatures and reconfigures to match and neutralize them. Next came a demonstration of weapon systems, precise, devastating energy weapons that could target objects smaller than a human hand from orbit. Impressive theatrics, Councillor June said dismissively. But an alarm blared, cutting him off. A Miran officer burst into the chamber. Councillors, we're detecting multiple unknown vessels on approach to Colony Outpost 7. They're not responding to hails and... His eyes widened with horror. The outpost has gone silent. Sujin's expression hardened. The Vanguard. They're here earlier than expected. She activated her communicator. Thunderchild battle stations. Plot intercept course to Miran Colony Outpost 7. The display showed the human crew transitioning smoothly to combat readiness. Captain, Teho said urgently, Outpost 7 has minimal defenses. Our nearest battle group is hours away. We're not, she replied simply. Turning to the council, she continued, transmit all sensor data to the Thunderchild, and I suggest you watch carefully. The council chamber became a makeshift command center, as displays showed the human warship accelerating at impossible speeds toward the endangered outpost. Within minutes, they had visual confirmation of the attack. The Koros ships were nightmares made metal, writhing insect-like constructs that seemed to constantly reconfigure themselves. 3 of them, each larger than a Miran cruiser, surrounded the small outpost, draining its power with tendrils of energy. By the stars, whispered Councillor Yoon. They're real. The Thunderchild burst into the scene, weapons already firing. Precise beams of blinding energy sliced through one Koros vessel before the others could react. The machine ships immediately abandoned the outpost, turning their attention to this new threat. What followed was a display of combat capability that left the Miran Council speechless. The human vessel moved with impossible agility, predicting the Koros attacks before they happened. How are they doing that? Asked a councillor. Combat AI, Teho realized aloud. They've fought these things before and learned their patterns. The Koros vessels fired strange phase-shifting weapons that would have torn through Miran's shields like paper. The Thunderchild's defenses adapted instantly, neutralizing each attack. When one Koros ship attempted to retreat, the human vessel deployed what Sujin called quantum anchors, devices that prevented the enemy from shifting out of normal space. Within 15 minutes, all 3 Koros vessels had been destroyed. The Thunderchild hovered protectively near the damaged outpost, already sending shuttles to assist survivors. The council chamber was silent. These humans, whom they had considered primitive just days ago, had single-handedly defeated an enemy that would have overwhelmed their entire defense fleet. The Vanguard is destroyed, Sujin's voice came through the comm, But this was just a scouting party. The main armada is still coming. Councillor June, his earlier skepticism gone, leaned forward. What would you have us do, Captain? Prepare. Your people, she replied, and trust that humanity stands with you. The display showed her on the bridge, resolve evident in her stance. More human ships are already on the way. The Koros are a threat to all life. We learned that lesson the hard way. Teho looked at the council members, seeing the realization dawn on their faces. Humans hadn't developed their formidable military might out of aggression or conquest. They had built it out of necessity, forged in fires the Mirans had never imagined could exist. I believe, Teho said quietly, that we have much to learn from our new allies. The orbital shipyard above the Miran homeworld hummed with unprecedented activity. Where once only Miran vessels had docked, now the massive forms of human warships cast long shadows across the planet below. 3 days had passed since the Thunderchild's demonstration against the Koros vanguard, and in that time, everything had changed. Commander Teho stood at the observation deck, watching as the 7th human vessel emerged from what they called fold space, another technology the Mirans had considered theoretically impossible. This ship, the UNSC Valiant, was even larger than the Thunderchild, its hull bearing scars from previous battles. Impressive, isn't it? Asked a voice behind. Him Teho turned to find Captain Su Jin approaching, her uniform exchanged for a more formal dress variant. In the days since their first meeting, he had come to respect her calm efficiency. I never imagined I would see such a sight, he admitted. 7 human warships in Miran space, and our people cheering their arrival. Su Jin smiled slightly. Your people learn quickly. The adaptive shield modifications you've implemented on your defense platforms should provide significant protection against the first wave of Koros attacks. They watched together as Miran engineers worked alongside human technicians, modifying the orbital defense grid with technology freely shared by the humans. I don't understand, Teho said after a moment. Why give us your advancements so freely? These technologies must have taken your people decades to develop. Centuries, actually, Su Jin corrected. The quantum weaponry alone took 50 years of research after the Proxima War. She turned to face him directly. But what good is hoarding knowledge when extinction threatens us all? The Koros don't discriminate between human or Miran. They consume everything. A young Miran officer approached, bowing respectfully. Commander, Captain, the Council requests your presence for the strategy briefing. The central war room of the Miran Defense Command was packed with officers from both species. Where days ago there had been suspicion and hostility, now there was focused determination. Holograms displayed the approaching Koros armada, a swarm of over 30 ships detected using the human scanning algorithms. High Councillor June, now fully converted from skeptic to ally, greeted them as they entered. Captain Su Jin, Admiral Young has arrived with the Valiant. He brings word from Earth Command. A tall human man with grey at his temples stepped forward. The full response fleet will arrive within 36 hours, 15 additional warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Murmurs spread through the Miran officers. Such firepower was beyond anything they had imagined. How? Asked Councillor Yoon. How did humanity build such a force without our knowledge? We've been watching Earth for centuries. Admiral Young shared a knowing look with Su Jin before responding. Your observation posts only monitored our homeworld and immediate solar system. After the silent enemy found us 50 years ago, we learned to build our shipyards and military installations in deep space, hidden within nebulae and asteroid fields. He activated a holographic display showing the human defense network. Hundreds of outposts, stations, and shipyards scattered across dozens of star systems. We had to adapt, he continued. Earth itself was nearly lost during the first Krell incursion. We learned that visible defenses only attract more powerful enemies. Teho recalled an old Miran saying his grandmother had taught him. Fear not the visible predator, but the one who has learned to hide its strength. He had always thought it referred to personal conflicts, never imagining it could apply to an entire species. Later, as the briefing concluded and officers dispersed to their assignments, Teho found himself walking with Su Jin through a corridor. lined with historical displays of Miran space exploration. Your people believe we built our military might for conquest, Sujin observed, pausing beside an image of the first Miran interstellar vessel. It was a natural assumption, Taeho admitted. Throughout our history, advanced weaponry was always developed for domination. For us it was survival, she replied quietly. Earth isn't located in a peaceful sector like yours. Our region of space has seen 3 extinction-level threats in the past century. We either adapted or perished. They stopped at a viewport overlooking the planet. Human shuttles streamed between ships, carrying supplies and personnel preparing for the coming battle. You know what I find most remarkable about humans, Taeho said. Not your technology or your tactics, impressive as they are. It's that after everything you've faced, you still came to warn us, a species that had been watching you without making contact. Sujin's expression softened. When we defeated that first Koros scout fleet, we found records of 27 civilizations they had eliminated, species that might have been allies, friends, teachers, or students, all gone because they faced the darkness alone. She looked out at the stars. We decided then that humanity would not allow that to happen again, not if we could prevent it. A tremor ran through the station as another human vessel arrived, its massive form eclipsing the others. The UNSC Defiance, its hull emblazoned with battle honors from conflicts the Mirans had never heard of. My grandfather was a historian, Taeho said. He always told me that true character is revealed not in times of peace, but in moments of crisis. He extended his hand in the human gesture Sujin had taught him. I believe we are fortunate that humanity's character was forged in fire. As their hands clasped, alert sirens began to sound. The Koros main fleet had been detected at the edge of the system, arriving earlier than predicted. It seems, Sujin said with grim determination, that the darkness has come again, but this time, neither of our peoples faces it alone. Together they hurried toward the command center, 2 species united by a common threat, and perhaps, if they survived, a common future among the stars. Put it on screen, Taeho ordered, smoothing down his uniform again. The view screen shifted to show the bridge of the human vessel. Taeho and his crew couldn't help but gasp. Instead of the primitive control systems they might have expected, the human bridge was a marvel of technology. Holographic displays, sleek consoles, and systems that looked more advanced than their own surrounded a group of humans in crisp blue uniforms. A human woman with short black hair stood at the center. Her uniform bore additional markings that Taeho assumed indicated rank. This is Captain Sujin of the United Nations Space Command vessel Thunderchild, she said, her pronunciation flawless. We acknowledge your greeting, Miran Station. We request permission to establish formal diplomatic communications. Taeho found himself momentarily speechless. Everything he thought he knew about humans had just been proven wrong. The supposedly primitive species had somehow built a warship that outclassed anything in the Miran fleet, mastered their language, and approached with a confidence that spoke of experience with interstellar diplomacy. This is Commander Taeho of Miran Collective Deep Space Monitoring Station 7, he finally responded. Permission granted, Captain Sujin. We welcome this unexpected contact with Earth. As the human captain nodded, Taeho couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had done so not as the primitives the Mirans had dismissed them as, but as equals, perhaps even as superiors.